The production value here is absolutely perfect, let me tell you.
It is.
Yes, we're here. Welcome, guys. It's
all three of us.
Weekly. All three of us. Cat made it. I don't have a hurricane this week. We're good to go. Brant's here no matter what. Shoddy internet and everything, you know. So welcome to another episode, guys. Hopefully you'll have an entertaining show to watch. There's not a lot of comic book news. In fact, there's only one comic book piece to really talk about. If there's any other news that you guys know about that we don't know about, let us know in the comments below. We'll talk about it, and we'll take some questions, of course. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the comic books. There's never a shortage of that. So, what do you want to do? You want to talk about comics first?
Let's talk about the news first, since there's so little of it. Why build up to a moment that's gonna, not have much? But the first thing was that the video game Spider-Man is gonna officially meet up with the mainstream Peter Parker. But instead of making this like a book in the direct market, this is gonna be part of their. It looks like the Ultimate Spider-Man Unlimited thing. That's like their digital comic. Yeah, I mean, that would be cool if this was a mini series. I hate that they. Especially Spider-Man, they tend to do a lot of the digital stuff. I know Spider-Girl, she had her story in the digital stuff. I didn't even finish reading it because I don't really have the digital version. So yeah, I feel like all these fun stories, it would be fun to actually get to see them as miniseries, or like if these digital books could be placed elsewhere. I don't love that they do that. So
yeah, I mean, we talked about that before. I usually wait for the print versions if there is one of digital stuff, and I don't know. It's just you got to go find it, right? It's hard to like keep on top of it, because I forget about digital releases and stuff. So.
Oh, for sure. But they don't even release on Wednesday. Release on like every day. They release a new one, I think.
Yeah, it's in parts, right?
Yeah, and they're short too. They try to make it like a webtoon format. And I always say this, but I kind of wish they'd do it on a form, like on a website that built for it, like put on webtoon, then that way anyone can read it.
I mean, that's how I family there's a new episode. So
I think you were saying that's how you read Batman Family Adventures. You read it.
Am I cutting out?
You did cut out a little bit.
Sorry, I was just saying because I'm subscribed to it and I have the app, it pops up on my phone when there's a new episode, so I never miss it. So.
Exactly. So you have like it's like you're, if you're waiting online for something, you could read it quickly. Like, oh, you're in the grocery store, you have 5 minutes, read Batman Family Adventures, and like you said, because you're subscribed, it's like all there. What given title are you talking about? For if you're talking about what news piece we're talking about, it's called. Let me see what it's called. It's Spider-Man Unlimited. It's a 12-part arc, and doesn't really tell you the issue. So it's just Spider-Man Unlimited. And then if you mean like the title of our actual video, we'll be talking about Batman. We'll be talking about that in a bit. Is Cat on the Road? Don't recognize the background. So I don't remember if I said it last week, but if I didn't, my kitchen's being redone. So I'm not in my kitchen. That's usually where I am. So that is why I'm in a different spot. So for the next couple of weeks, you'll be here.
Isn't it funny though? No matter where you sit, you're always sitting and there's a picture behind you.
Always. But I have a better picture. That's a signed Beatles picture. So it's a little better than that what's it called? Whatever. It's like a flower picture in the kitchen. I don't know if it even exists anymore. There's no wall over there. So you're definitely going to see a different area next time. That would be my official area because I can't even use my mic here. I'm just using my AirPods.
Gotcha.
You guys gotta, just for a couple of weeks, you gotta live. I can't even cook. So that's been fun. I don't have an oven. I don't have a stove. So it's going to be a fun month.
It's microwave, man. Microwave pizzas and takeout.
That's pretty much what we've been doing. We got a toaster oven now. So, and I've been using the grill a lot. Like every day I've been using the grill.
Nice.
I'm just
That's
ordering out a
something.
lot. Let's get into. So, any other thoughts on Spider-Man, or we'll go into the last news topic?
Yeah.
No other Spider-Man thoughts.
Go into the exciting news topic here.
The exciting one. Hickman's gonna be working on another Marvel book. I guess this God's book was the thing he really wanted to work on, and now he's back. I think if you really look at the writing on the wall, is that he left for Substack. Substack didn't do so well, and now he's like, let's go back to Marvel.
That's fine. I mean, they need a big time person there, I feel. And, you know, whatever book that he is, I am looking forward to actually reading it. I remember he did write like a small story in one of like the milestone issues of Spider-Man, and it had to do with like the Edge of Spider-Verse stuff. But when he wrote it, it wasn't very long. It was only a few pages, but it was really, really good the way he wrote the characters in the book. So I was like, could he write a Spider-Man story? Like, I don't ever see him writing a Spider-Man run or doing anything like that, but you never know, right? I mean, I would check it out if that was the case, for sure.
I think whatever it's gonna be will be connected to like that God's book. I think it'll be very like out there, or even maybe a new type of series.
And there will be charts.
There's always
Charts.
Yeah. There's always even in that in the Ultimate book, there's the freaking chart in that one this past week too,
which we'll definitely talk about. Does anyone understand? There's a question from Steve. Those one-page God pages Hickman is writing. I think they're just teasers, kind of like your Marvel, MCU type style teasers.
Yeah, I agree.
It's all leading into that event or whatever it is.
People are excited for Gods. We got Mr. Negative saying they're excited. Haven't read anything from him before. Oh wow! So you haven't read anything from him before. I still think to date, I would say the House of X and Power of X stuff was probably the best from him. That's probably what I enjoyed the most. It was most consistent.
I really liked the whole Avengers thing leading up into the incursions. Like that was really, really freaking good. That was a nice run. And then the whole lead into, everything that came to Battle World. Like I thought that was very creative and something different. And just like how Molecule Man was holding the whole world together and everything. Like that was just so interesting to me. Like to just create a whole other universe was mind blowing. And then I agree. Like I like the House of 10, the Powers of X and House of 10 also. Like I thought the original concept of the story was very interesting. My only issue, and my issue is still today, and is the Resurrection Protocol thing. I just feel like, in the initial, Powers of 10 and House of X, you got to see them on the battle station of Orcus, and they blew up. And then the next thing you wind up learning is that they got resurrected. And that's how you learned about those resurrection protocols. And I'm like, oh shit. Well, this is going to be a problem in the future, because that means they can die at any time. And nothing means anything. There's nothing at stake. And that's been the problem. That was my only issue with Hickman's, idea there when it came to the X-Men stuff.
There were a lot of pieces I feel like that weren't followed through. Like I still think Moira, as much as they try to play with her, still hasn't really done much in that regard. Like they really hyped her up, and then she was
now there. she's like a Terminator now.
Who are we talking about?
Moira.
Oh, Moira. Okay, yeah. Not loving what they've done with her overall.
But we were talking about though, like what is your favorite Hickman story, Brant?
I kind of agree with you. I like the New Avengers stuff. I did like the beginning of Powers of X and stuff, but it quickly got away from that. But I think the Avengers stuff was probably the most consistent for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it felt like a really good lead up into a major thing, right? It just was like this build up, and it was like, what was it, like 8 weeks until this, and 7 weeks until that, and 6 weeks. Like it kept on building up into the major event, and that's kind of something you don't really see as of late. You know, it's just like,
we'll
hey,
probably talk about.
yeah, it's like, hey, next week we have an event coming. Oh shit, really? Like, okay. You're like, all right, you know, and that's how these events have been as of late, you know.
Yeah, they're just kind of there for selling the comic, not really actually feeling that there's any build up and meaning to the events. Again, I'd always go back to the what was it called? The Venom event. What was it called?
King in Black.
King in
yeah,
Black.
That's the one I feel like out of recent years is most connected to. Oh, look at all this stuff we were doing for Venom, and for 5 years, this actually connects to that story.
Yeah,
and so happened to be an event for the whole universe.
Yeah, I mean, that story was really good because ever since issue 1, it connected to, you know, Null and the whole King in Black event, and there was definitely, you know, a really good story that was told there overall. I thought that was really, really well done. And I feel like now it seems like there's more like individual events that take place, like within, you know, maybe your favorite hero, like Spider-Man, just Batman, or X-Men. So I feel like across the line, there's more events than ever. And sometimes that's okay, and sometimes when you overdo it, that's not a good thing, you know. So, and because then you're forced, well, you're not forced. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but then it could take you out of that comic book for, you know, weeks, months, however long it is. Like when you look at Gang War, when it comes to Spider-Man, that's tied into a lot of comic books that is getting ready to come out, and that's, I counted it today. It's 29 books in total. When it comes to Gang War, just between the entire Marvel line.
That's gonna be an event. I mean, I'm looking forward to it just because I like grounded Spider-Man stories, and I enjoy Gang Wars. And I feel like it hasn't been done in a while. But you know, hopefully it doesn't do the event thing they tend to do, and it's just very bloated, and they don't actually have a lot of movement.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when it came to Dark Web, right? That's like a failure. That just was nothing there. And then you got the Kamala thing, and we all know what the purpose with that is. So maybe now, hopefully, it will, you know, transpire into something good, and this will be something that people will enjoy, you know, and that's all we can hope for when it comes to this new event. Otherwise, people are really going to get upset, I think, when it comes to this one.
I'm sure they will if they're not already. David brings up a good point. Night Terrors took me out of Dawn of DC. Kind of sucks. I had so many fewer comics for the summer. No, hell yeah. That's a great example of an event that just didn't work.
It shouldn't have existed, you know? The only thing I can think of is like maybe this was something that was already drawn up, that they decided that we have to go through with it, whatever it is. I don't know, but like you look at the the DC books that are coming out today or in the next couple of weeks, and it's just like Superman's coming out, and you got Green Arrow's coming out, and Green Lantern's coming out, and you're like, what the hell happened in those books?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And 8 weeks is a long time for a book to take a break, especially when it just launched.
Yeah, that's what made no sense to me. You know, interrupting these books that were brand new, and just to tell the story, it makes no sense, and it loses all momentum in those titles.
But also only some of them, because you had like that Steel book that was out that was still continuing, and then you had like Superboy, and I'm like, all right, it was an interesting thought process that I don't think worked very well.
Yeah, they interrupted the books that people were really excited about, and left the ones that people weren't.
I wish I had dropped more of those 2-issue Night Terrors. Most didn't matter. I mean, what was hard is that they were 2 issues, so once you tried them, you felt like you had to finish them. I didn't finish. Yeah, I didn't finish most of them. I think the only one I enjoyed was Flash. That was the only one that I thought was worthwhile And I'm not even saying that's like the best book ever, but that was my favorite out of all of them.
I didn't even finish the main story.
Oh, I didn't start it.
It also.
Yeah, that one definitely didn't work. We got Jimmy G. He hasn't been in the comments for a while. He's still alive, he says.
That's good.
Or are you saying Brant before about Night Terrors?
I just said I had pre-ordered the main series, so I finished it.
Oh damn! Did it meet all your expectations?
Nope.
But yeah, that's all the news, guys. So if you have any other questions throughout the show and have any other news pieces that came out, quote unquote, let me know. But I couldn't find any. So we're gonna move into the comics. And believe it or not, I don't have a Kickstarter going on right now. We're gonna in the next couple of weeks I will, and I have pre-launch pages, but we'll promote it when it's actually live. So no Kickstarters this week.
Did you want to talk about Batman now, or did you want to talk about it later?
Let's talk about Batman now. Why not? We're kind of already in the feel of it. But the reason I came up with this topic was, we'll talk about Gotham War. I don't think it was a horrendous book by any means, but it also didn't feel like a top tier book for me. The artwork was not very strong. I thought it was very plain. And I just feel like there's so much potential in the book. Like there's a lot of interesting tidbits. Like I like the idea that Catwoman and Batman are going against each other. I like the idea that Catwoman is doing something bad, but in the long run, she's like, maybe this isn't bad for Gotham. Maybe the thing you're doing is kind of bad for Gotham. So there's this really interesting morally gray argument, but the way it's executed in the issue, I'm like, it was kind of boring to me. I just feel like it could have been a stronger issue, and I feel like there could have been a better lead up to it. It just kind of feels like a random event just to have the event. And also the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I feel like Chip Zdarsky's run started so strong, and then you had that whole middle story of this Elseworld story, and then you had Night Terrors, and it just lost all steam. And I just feel like I don't think people are really talking about Batman, if I'm being honest. Even though Spider-Man's been so bad, people are at least talking about how bad it's been. Like Batman, it's been so neutral that there's nothing to say about it recently.
With this event, just as a tiny little sidetrack, I wonder, because none of us are reading Catwoman, I wonder if we've been reading Catwoman, if the lead up would be stronger.
True.
And this is crossing over with Catwoman too, right?
So,
he's roboting again.
I know. Sorry.
That's all right.
So Catwoman, the lead up, you were saying?
Yeah, it looks like my connection's really low, so I might cut out here in a second. But I was just saying that I think that might have been a better lead up to this instead of just like boom. But the book itself I enjoy, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely talk about the book. I buy and read Catwoman. I had no lead up.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, just like her status, her current, what she's up to, what she's doing in DC right now, like how she came into where she is at this stage. Did they not build any of that up in Catwoman at all?
Yeah, let us know, Steve. And I think Mr. Negative is reading Catwoman too. Let us know. None of us I haven't read Catwoman in a really long time.
Yeah, me either. Like I couldn't tell you the last time I read it. Gotham War Part 1 was slow, but the theme and the question at hand is interesting to me. I think it becomes more interesting if members of the Bat family turn on bats. Well, you did get to see Jason do that right from the start.
Comics with Den is that's exactly my thoughts. Like I think this book has a lot of potential, and obviously I'm going to continue reading it. I just don't know if it hit all the potential, and I'd be curious to see which Bat family members kind of betray Batman. It's interesting because I've been watching Harley Quinn, which I'm always watching Harley Quinn, but this season is about Harley becoming a hero and Poison Ivy being a villain, and they're still making their relationship work, and it kind of reminds me of that, where it's just like they have such different views of life, but they're still a couple. So I'm curious to see, will they actually play with the idea that Batman and Catwoman do love each other? They were married at a point, kind of. I feel like that's the interesting character development I want to see. I want to see they love each other. They're actually family. So it's just like to be on different sides. Like how does that affect them? And I just didn't feel that here. I didn't feel anything.
Well, so this book was written by Chip Zdarsky and Tini Howard, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's going to be crossing over between the two titles, right? So what if you're going to get strong book by Chip and then you're going to get the other side by Teeny Howard? It could be very lopsided.
Hey, if there's one strong book, I'll be happier than having 2 not strong books.
Right. Right.
And I mean, you know, I guess people are enjoying Catwoman because it's still coming out, right? So somebody's loving it,
man. For me, there just hasn't been a Catwoman series that's been enjoyable in forever.
I think it's a variant cover by. I think that, I mean, again, Poison Ivy, I think a lot of people like too, but I think Poison Ivy has been as successful as it is because the covers are really good for the book.
That's like, I buy Poison Ivy every month for the covers. I never read it.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried Catwoman ever since I got back into comics when the New 52 launched, and I remember that Catwoman book got so much controversy when she was hooking up with Batman on top of the roof. And I was like, what the hell is this, man? I'm like, what is happening here? And I read a couple issues of that, and I'm just like, this is horrible. Like, I just never liked it, never enjoyed it at all.
No.
I enjoyed, but then it got bad again. If you guys can hear me, I don't know.
I didn't hear the beginning. So what got bad again?
I said there was a short arc that I enjoyed of Catwoman at some point.
Ron V, a lot of people liked. A lot of people liked Ron V's arc. I think that might be the one you liked.
It might be, and then it just got bad after that for me.
So I guess, and the question is though, like we're talking about this story, for instance, I actually like this issue. Like we'll talk more about it when we get into the actual comics, but I enjoyed this issue, just because I see like the potential in the story. Now, what transpires out of it is a completely different thing. But you know, Kat says, you know, when we came up with this topic, what does Batman need to rejuvenate? I can't even say it. Rejuvenate him. Right. Correct. So like, what do you guys think in the comments that can help the Batman story right now? Or do you not find anything wrong with the main title at this moment? Do you think Chip is a good fit? Do you feel like what do you need? Like, I don't even know at this point when it comes to
I think you need arcs. I mean, that's what the last great book that was very long was Scott Snyder's book. And that's mostly because every arc had a direction, it had a theme, and it changed a lot for Batman. I mean, you had the James Gordon thing, you had him having a new girlfriend, him not being Batman, a Court of Owls. I think you just need things to happen, you know? Like, I think you just need direction.
I think that was the problem. Well, one of the problems with Tom King's run was that it was just one very long arc that never seemed to end.
Yeah, so it was so drawn out.
Yeah, so I agree. You need like at least mini arcs, like you need subplots that you can end and then continue on with your larger plot beyond that, and that's a better way to structure it, at least for me. So,
Tevye brings up a point. Here's my solution: stop releasing too many books. See, I think Batman doesn't have that many books when it comes to the main universe. I actually think they should be more connected. Like, I think Nightwing is so disconnected from Batman. And then, like, Batgirls just got canceled, but even that felt like a completely different series than the Batgirl you're reading in Nightwing. I think they just need to be better connected.
So, like, yeah, and Jason Todd's not part of anything either, right?
Right, yeah.
Right.
And then you're going to get this Batman and Robin series that's coming out next week, not tomorrow, but next week. And is that an alternate story, or is that a story? Like, when does that take place? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
That's the thing. We have all these Batman stories that are coming out, but they're not connected to the main universe. So it's like all your Batman stories are being, used up in non-continuity stories, right? So, I mean, but you make a good point, Kat. Like, Scott Snyder did a really good job at doing really good story arcs. And some of them were longer than others, and some of them were more impactful for others. But this goes back to what I like about comics is sometimes when a story arc is not so drawn out, at least if you don't like one, there's another one that's coming out
Right.
in the near future, you know? And so like a lot of people love the Court of Owls. And then we went to the whole death of the family thing when Joker didn't have his face. And then we had the year zero stuff. And then, you know, they had the Riddler stuff. And then you even had Bunny Robo Batman when Commissioner Gordon was, you know, posing as Batman for a while. There was so much stuff that he brought to the table. He had that Mr. Bloom guy, that villain dude. You know, there was just a lot of different things. And then yeah, you got Tom King that came out, and it was just, hey, I'm gonna be married to freaking Catwoman, and oh wait, my wedding didn't happen, and oh look, Alfred's dead. And that was kind of it out of the whole thing. And I said it like after issue freaking, I think it was 18. I remember having that conversation with you guys going, I don't like this run because it just seems like it's dragged out way too much. Because you guys mentioned it was like a love letter and stuff like that. And then it's like, yeah, but it's too boring. There's nothing there. There's nothing happening. And, you know, and then by the end, you guys said the same thing. You know, you're like, oh, yeah, it's just, you know.
There's pieces I like of Tom King's run. Like, I mean, the Carnival issues, like a great example of what I think Tom King did right. But no, yeah, by the end, I think once you get to a point where the marriage didn't happen, it's like, oh, okay, so the love letter didn't matter because they didn't even do the wedding. You know, I think the biggest problem Marvel DC is that they don't want to do anything with their characters anymore, especially their big characters like Batman and Spider-Man, the ones that sell. They just don't want to do anything to tarnish them and to make them grow. And I think that's why, and we'll talk about like Hulk and Punisher and books like that, but why I loved Punisher. I think it was such a great book because they did something. Even let it stick. The next Punisher book is not going to be him because they're following what happened in that last Punisher book. And I wish Spider-Man and Batman had that room to breathe and let to just do something different with them. And I think it's a shame that editorial keeps such reins on these characters. And because you could tell it does not matter what writer goes on to these books. It doesn't matter. So they're going to continue to do the same thing over and over again. And that's, it's going to bore people. You're going to deter people from picking up these books.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I just wish like you said too, Kat, like I wish the Bat family was actually a little bit more connected. Like they show up in this story, right? But you never really feel that connection previously beforehand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not, but
Yep,
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I wish more of the Bat family was more present, more active, more connected. In this story, I actually think they are doing something a little bit different with it, and I like it. And I'm really curious to see what it will do with the overall Batman family. Like if they are at odds, if they do pick sides and all of that. So I think we're, like you said earlier, Kat, we're dealing with a lot of interesting themes here, and hopefully this is something different that does change and impact.
Yeah, I think Brandt's saying, he hopes it impacts the family, which I hope so too. So you're saying, Brandt, you hope it impacts the family, right?
Yeah, I was saying I hope it impacts the overall Batman family, and going forward, it does have like some kind of change and effect on all of them together. Yeah.
You can only hope. I will say I don't know if the first issue gave me hope on that one, because I don't know if there's like the big moment where it's just like, yeah, Catwoman's gonna. I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, even going to Catwoman's sexuality when they made her bi, they're like, yeah, we're gonna do something different with her. She's with this girl, and then they like said, no, we can't do that. We're just gonna forget that happened. But yeah, like anytime there's changes to these characters, it just tends not to stick, sadly. And they don't tend to do much with it. I'm really trying to think of a character that like had a big arc from the Bat family that let them grow and change as of recently.
Not recently.
Yeah, recently.
I mean,
not like
in the Batman book.
At anywhere, even outside the Batman book.
I mean, you only saw the biggest. I mean, the character that you saw had growth outside of Batman, but a different character was Damian when you saw him in the
Yeah.
Robin.
Right. But even
Right.
that, like you see Damian, and we'll obviously see where Batman and Robin goes, but has that story even picked up pieces from there? No.
Not
Right.
since he's left that island, not since that
Yeah.
story ended.
Right. Yeah. I think there was a
mean-
little bit in that Batman versus Robin thing, but other than that,
I mean, Nightwing, like you said, doesn't
Obviously.
even interact in there. They're not even
Right.
together at all. And that book for me, I'm looking at that book and I'm like almost thinking of dropping it because it's just so not even what it was when it first started. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Which book?
Nightwing.
Nightwing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so hard to drop Nightwing just because it's like
Yeah, it's Dick
I don't know.
Grayson.
It's a hard one.
But it's like it's more Titans now than anything, and it's just
Yeah.
and it's just
I haven't hated Titans though. The actual
it's-
Titans book, I don't think is.
there's
horrible.
not been enough of it. There's been like 2 fucking issues of it.
Two
Like,
issues.
Extra.
Yeah.
yeah, you
That's
know,
true.
it's like how can you haven't had time to, you
Sure.
know? But it's just I don't know,
Yeah.
man. There's something lacking there. Like I liked Shazam, I like Green Arrow, and I like Green Lantern. Like those.
But
new
also, Green
books-
Lantern has only 2 issues, so it's so hard to tell.
I know, but those books seem like at a different level to me than some of these.
Green
other
Lantern,
ones.
I'm excited for because of Jeremy Adams, but there was there's still like little things where I was like, oh man, what are they doing with Carol Ferris? Like I'm still a little hesitant on that. But Green Arrow, I think at least there's been enough issues. There's been at least 3 or 4, I think, of that one.
I think there's
and
only
that's
been 3 of
there's
that.
3 issues. I don't
Yeah.
know, man. They should not have done Night Terrors.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Brant? Before you're gonna say something, I think.
I don't even know. I was afraid to speak. I was afraid to just start cutting out. So
No, I mean you're not cutting out now, so.
Okay. I don't remember what I was going to say now, though. So,
But yeah, we're just talking about that Batman stuff about what characters have made Batman or changed the character. And of course, he freezes up right now, just as he starts to talk.
Just in the
Of course.
moment. Well, while we wait for Brant to tell us which characters all right, Brant's back. So Brant, which characters were they that you were interested in?
I
Or
was
not
going to
interested
say,
in? Changed.
yeah, I was going to say long term, if we're talking Nightwing is the obvious one that evolved the most, I think. But
mostly
recently,
short term. Yeah.
Yeah, recently, yeah, the Robin book. I think Cassie and Stephanie in their own book, right? So they've kind of done their own thing and become their own characters. But yeah, I don't know. They've tried with Tim,
Right.
I think a little bit, but it hasn't really worked. So I don't know.
You know what I find weird though? It's like Tim has been the sidekick to Robin in the Batman book, right? But we have a Batman and Robin book and Damian is going to be his sidekick there. And I think someone said in the comments that it does take place in the present. So I'm like totally lost on this whole thing.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like, I don't know. It's sad because Tim is my favorite Robin. He's always been my favorite Robin. And
Right.
they don't know what to do with him.
And I think him being Robin is pretty badass. And I think Damian being on his own, I think kind of works.
But then now he's
I
gonna be
agree.
Batman again.
Yeah.
I agree with that though, because Tim is the most like Bruce of all of them, I think. And well, maybe Damian is, but of the ones that are not actually related to him.
Right.
I think Tim's more of a level-headed Batman.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as like the detective side and
Right.
that kind of aspect of Batman,
He's
I think
smart.
He's,
He's got the technology savvy side of him and whatnot.
Yeah.
Someone goes, he's gay. That's what they're doing with him. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Who cares if he's
That's
gay?
just who he is. That's not what he's. Yeah.
And also, yeah, I think like Chip Zdarsky has done a really good job at the Bernards. Like when you do see Bernard, I think he's done a better job. I think it just depends on who's
yes,
playing him.
absolutely.
Yeah. I agree.
Sorry, I have such a bad mosquito bite over here. It's killing me. I keep doing this. I also asked Serenity about the bisexual thing with Catwoman. Supposedly, it's happening in the first book. They said Eco's first appearance in the current run of Catwoman's in issue 35. There's also Onyx that Catwoman flirts with. Selena has chosen to be single, so she's not in a relationship with anyone. All right, I mean, at least that's good. I'm glad that they are able to pick it up. I know in the last couple of years, I felt like they kind of dropped the ball, but I'm glad that. I guess since the wedding didn't work out, that she's able to at least express it a little bit. All right, well, that's Batman. I think we'll jump into some other controversial books like Miss Marvel.
All right. So let's talk about it then. We're going to talk about our top 5 comics and other noteworthy comics. So we're talking about Miss Marvel, the New Mutant, issue 1. You know what? I actually did not like. Excuse me. I actually
didn't
hate this book. I actually
Me
liked
either.
it.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I don't think I hated it either. I think is it as good as the original Miss Marvel? No, but I was actually pleasantly surprised by this one.
Yeah.
I like that it wasn't as X-Men based as I thought it was going to be. I like that. I love Bruno. I thought Bruno was great in this issue.
I thought that scene was good too.
Yeah.
With her talking to him. My initial grade on this book, so I've been grading my books. So my initial grade for this book was a solid B. I thought that this book was very exposition heavy, and not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but my thing was, why do we have to sit there and go into the thought of Miss Marvel and every little single thing that she's thinking about? Like, you had to see it on the page. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of bogged down the story a little bit, but I like the overall story. I like how the X-Men sent her on this mission because she's going to this university to, to study Orcus and whatnot. And it was a very Miss Marvel thing for her to dress up in the X-Men uniform thinking, oh, I'm an X-Men. I'm going to change people's minds about the X-Men and they're going to love me. And that kind of backfired in her face a little bit.
I'm not sure about that part. I think it's the only part where I was like, oh, is that really Miss Marvel? Because obviously it's weird because Kamala's not in her school. People liked her a lot. She was not popular, but she was people enjoyed Kamala. She was a good person.
Right.
I think that's part I'm a little hesitant on. Is oh, now people hate her because of the because of her being an X-Men. I'm curious to see where they go with it, though. I'm curious about the commentary because what's different between thinking she's still Inhuman, but just an Inhuman and just a mutant. And I really love Bruno, though, because I think every X-Men story you see anytime, it's always everyone's going to hate you no matter what. So I love that there was a character who's so outside the X-Men saying, no, I still love you. I don't care.
Well, they don't know that she is Kamala is Miss Marvel anymore, though, right? Then Emma mind swiped everybody.
Bruno, I thought still knew. I think his parents don't know.
They just
hold that thought there, Brant.
Okay. So Bruno still knows. You said, Brant.
Bruno still knows that. Okay, so there was people. I know that Emma mind swiped everybody to realize that Ms. Marvel didn't die. But I don't think that I didn't remember in the comic if she had people remember that she was Ms. Marvel to begin with. That I don't remember. But
I think it's just the parents. And I think it was more of that they don't remember she died.
Yeah, they don't remember she died.
Yeah.
So that was what happened here.
They had forgotten that she was Miss Marvel a long time ago. I forget what the storyline was, but there was a storyline that erased their memories of that.
Oh, really? So they don't know anything then?
Right. Pretty much. Unless she told them again. I don't remember.
I'm curious to see Nakia and Zoe too, if they remember, because they're, important members of her supporting cast. But it looks like they're really focusing on the TV show because obviously the actress that plays Miss Marvel, wrote this book.
Yeah.
So they're focusing on Bruno more because I only watched half of that show, but it seemed, Bruno was more of a prevalent character than Nakia and Zoe.
I mean, when I got done reading this book, I said, yeah, it's a little bit exposition heavy. There's maybe some things I didn't agree with in this comic, but when I got done, I was like, well, this is the best Ms. Marvel comic I've read in quite some time, because I just felt like it was more true to the character, and it just felt like a good story. It felt like a good Kamala story. It wasn't like she didn't feel like she was a side character. It just,
There
I
was a
don't know.
direction.
Huh? What's that?
There was an actual direction
Yeah,
too. What
and
happened.
she's excited about being part of the X-Men and whatnot, and she wants to do good. And I don't know. I mean, I liked it. I just didn't like all that. It took me forever to read this book, and I was just like, my gosh, like I said, I don't want to read everything that's going through her brain.
Yeah, the beginning was a little struggle, and I was really scared because of the beginning, but then it really picked up. Brant, what did you think? I know you're a big Miss Marvel fan. What did you think of it?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was kind of the thing for me too. It took me a little bit to get into it. I was a little worried about it at first, but I think overall I enjoyed it, especially when the scenes with Bruno were the best for me, and I really enjoyed him. Although I don't remember how he got his like arms and everything back, but because didn't he like lose an arm or something, and he went to
They
Wakanda?
definitely did. They don't care, I guess.
I guess not, because I was like, why has he got two arms? What's going on? But anyway, yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was pretty decent, and it's definitely better than what we had been getting, like you said, Mike, of Miss Marvel in quite a while. So, hopefully they'll do something stronger, better with her going forward. And it's interesting her dealing with the whole being a mutant thing, and I thought it was a little, stupid that everybody just immediately recognized her uniform had a very small X on it.
Right. I think Brant's saying, like, it's stupid that they were rioting, I guess, right after they saw the X.
Yeah, hey, but
exactly.
You know what? It's like society, though. Sometimes, things are bad. You automatically hate them. So people are just like, oh, X. Bad.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of how it was.
Yeah, so, exactly.
She's got the cards stacked against her. All right, cool. So that was Miss Marvel. So overall, it seemed like we all liked it, and we'll see what happens with it. All right. Now we'll actually talk about Batman, Catwoman, the Gotham War Battle Lies, issue 1. Like I said, I enjoyed the comic overall. I like the idea of it. Was it my favorite artwork in the story? No. I was kind of taken back by the artwork. But I did like the story. I liked the concept. I liked how Jason Todd right away betrayed Batman, and he's like, Catwoman, I like what you're doing. And I like how Batman actually second guessed himself just for a second, and then when the guy got murdered at the end, he was just like, no, screw that. It's like Catwoman stuff is wrong, It's just like I was just like, that's kind of cool. It's just like he's gonna stick to his guns there, and he's gonna challenge her. But overall, it was fine. It wasn't by far, it was not the best Batman story I have ever read. But when you haven't had Batman in a couple of months, like a real Batman story, because you had Night Terrors in there too, I'm like, okay, I'm excited to get to a Batman story and to see where, this portion of this whole Gotham War goes.
I don't have much more thoughts besides the last one. You're gonna say, Brant?
No, go ahead.
No, I was pretty much saying, like, everything I said with the Batman section. I'm like, let's see where it goes. Wasn't horrible, but wasn't in my top 5.
Yeah. I mean, Mike, you pretty much took the words out of my mouth verbatim. It's exactly my thoughts on it. I thought the beginning, it took a little bit to get into it, just like Miss Marvel. It was a little bit slow at first.
Right.
But once they got into the meat of it, and you saw all of them to do this. It wasn't perfect, had issues, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was, coming off Night Terrors, it was a breath of fresh air. So.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you gotta, even though like her crime it's still a crime and what she's doing is not right. But when you look at the crime rate, how everything was down, it does make sense. It's like, hey, Batman, maybe your stuff doesn't work and maybe Catwoman's does. I mean, it's actually proven. I mean, you were in a coma basically for 8 weeks. And then before that, you were off world in some alternate universe. So it's just kind of like, someone had to hold the fort for a while. Now, when you could sit there and flip the script a little bit and be like, well, why is Catwoman doing all the work? Again, where is all the Bat family here? Where's Jason Todd? Where's Nightwing? Where's Babs? Where is, everybody else? Tim was searching for Batman, right? But when you look at everything else, it's like, shouldn't they be taking care of Gotham? So you can look at it that way too, right?
Yeah, but even though she has, a point and coming down in the ring, it's still crime. You're still stealing from people, and that's what I'm against. So it's an interesting concept for the story, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that was Batman Catwoman, and so now we'll just dive right into our number 5, and I can tell you my number 5 was actually Batman Catwoman. So we definitely talked about that comic book. So just in case Brant cuts out, again, what was your number 5?
Miss Marvel.
Okay.
5, so.
Mine was also Miss Marvel. So we talked about it.
Nice.
All the books we talked about were in our top 5.
All right. So let's move on to Ultimate Invasion. So this is issue 3 of the 4-part miniseries. These books are a little bit longer. I feel like this story is taking a while to develop. But
definitely something.
Yeah, but obviously this is not the end of this because we're going to get an ongoing series based off of this miniseries. So I feel like what Jonathan Hickman is doing in this comic is he's basically just kind of introducing some of the players that are going to be into this world. That's what you saw in this issue. And you got to see, obviously, them all, memorizing Obadiah Stane, and you get to see Howard Stark and what is it? Tony Stark as, young kid. And then you wind up seeing this version of Doctor Doom, right? Which is Reed Richards in this universe. So I don't know. It looked cool. I was kind of bored by this whole issue. It wasn't my favorite.
I only liked the ending. I only liked, like, oh yeah, cool. Reed's gonna be Doctor Doom. That's
I like that. I was like,
rest
okay,
of it's pretty boring. I don't know what the direction is going to be with the Ultimate Universe, but the stuff that's being told here is not what I liked about the Ultimate Universe. I think a better example of what I think worked for the Ultimate Universe is kind of the styles of like Dark Knight of Steel or Injustice Gods Among Us, where these are characters you really love, but they're put on their head, and I'm not getting that. This is just like over-explaining about mythos that I'm just not that interested in, or even a promise that the Ultimate Universe is coming back. We've been teased so much. It's like, all right, well, I want to see it now. I want to see it coming to fruition. So it's just so slow. It's not my thing. But I'll still read it because I like the Ultimate Universe.
I don't know if I'm cutting out or not, but I think the first 2 issues were better. This was very heavy on just, hey, this is the status quo of this new version of the Ultimate Universe, and how things go, and about all the countries involved, and all that kind of thing. It was a lot of setup. But I think the payoff at the end was solid, and at the very least, we're gonna understand how this new Ultimate Universe works once it actually gets here, if it gets here.
So, I mean, there's definitely an ongoing coming out after this.
Yeah.
So
right.
And you're gonna get more of it as time goes along. So we'll see. But yeah, that last page, I was just like, I was reading this book and I'm just sitting there going, yeah. Okay. I mean, I get what they're doing. And then I turn that page. I'm like, oh. And there's always that one page that always gets you. And like, that's what Hickman does, man. He just like plants those seeds and you're just like, now I got to continue to read it, Not in Cat's eyes, though. Cat's eyes like, nah.
No. I'll be like, we'll see what happens.
I'm still enjoying
it too much.
So it's cool. I like, though, how it's not a carbon copy of the last universe, though. That's
definitely not.
That's what I want something different, right? We don't need the exact same people and the exact same thing that we had before, you know? So,
Yeah.
Tevia says, do you believe Miles Morales Spider-Man will go back to the Ultimate Marvel universe? No,
No.
he is definitely
Not
not
a
going
chance.
back there. Yep.
He might
I
go
think
back
it'll
and
be
forth.
Yeah, he might he might have like an arc where he's like, oh, I go back to Ultimate Universe and I learn this is like my real universe. But I think I think there's gonna be a new lead. I think
Yeah.
it's not gonna even be Spider-Man. I think
Yeah.
it'll be a whole different character.
I mean, he clearly stated that to the maker that he wasn't going to go when he gave
Right.
him the the
It could be
option to go.
Four. I think the Fantastic Four might be the more lead because they've been focusing
Yeah.
so much on Reed.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think it was smart to say up front, no, it's not going to be Miles. You know,
Yeah.
you just get that out of the way,
Yep.
and then you can move on. Yeah,
Right. I mean, and then in all reality, I don't think there is a Spider-Man in this universe because at the end of
Jessica?
issue 1,
Hmm.
remember, right? He went to the end at the end and he interfered with the spider biting Peter.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a Spider-Man in that universe.
I think Mr. Negative says, I think the Miles of that universe might be Spider-Man, though, and we'll have a Spider-Woman in the Ultimate Universe. I mean, yeah, I think maybe Jessica Drew could be a really, really cool character if they do that. But Miles, he's too big of a character. If you brought him back to the Ultimate Universe, people would be. I don't think it'd be the right move. He's just too big of a character to put him to now just make him an altering universe Spider-Man. No, like he's grown so past that.
Yeah,
I agree. There's a reason why they brought him to the main universe. They're not going to put him back there. But you made a good point. It could be for a story arc. I could see that, but not as a permanent thing.
Right.
Let's see. All right. So there's that one. All right. So World Tree issue 5. Brant, you read this book. This book is really getting good for me. And I was so surprised at the end of issue 4 of what happened. And now in this issue, we find out that the brother actually gets killed because he shuts down the entire web. So now nothing in the world is working. Everything is shut down. And there's only one server left. And it looks like our cast of characters is going to be going into, I guess, maybe the dark web, I guess, to stop her. I don't exactly know where they're going, but you also saw stuff that was taking place in the future as well. So I'm a little bit confused at the actual direction that we're going in here.
Is this like
Hold on, you're freezing for a second.
Yeah.
But overall, I really enjoyed the story.
I think Brand's back.
I think he's back. Yep.
Okay. Is this the last issue for a while, or is it taking a break now? Or
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I saw like everybody was saying, all 5 issues are out now, and I'm thinking like that can't be the end. It just got to be the end of this first arc or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed this book too. It took me by surprise. Sometimes it's I wait to read it because I have to like really be into it to read it, just because there's a lot going on and stuff. But the way it's paced, the moodiness of the color palettes and everything, and the way it's like really subtle, like blues and greens when it's just a calm, and then they ramp it up with the oranges and the reds, and then you got that chaotic scene when you see the undernet.
Yeah,
it's a really interesting book, and the way like that. And also, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay. I was just saying that there's a whole society of those people, whether that's the future or whether that's in the internet, and like the whole internet is dead now, and they only have the one way in. And I don't know if you noticed, Mike, but there's like a URL at the end of the book.
Yeah, I tried typing it in. And
I did too.
It didn't come out. In fact, actually, when I typed it in, it said, you have a virus on your phone. And I'm like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't do this. So I actually tried to type, but both times I couldn't get it to work.
Okay, so it didn't work for me the first time, and I tried it gave me like a service error, and I tried it again and actually went to the website, and it had a login button, and it might have been the last page or next to last page, there was actually that guy's password on in the comic. So I typed it in, and it just takes you to this blank screen. And it's like,
really?
Okay, maybe they're going to do something with that later, but it was kind of fun that it was just like all it's.
I think Brant is in the dark web. He's in the underweb.
I'm in the undernet.
World
Yeah.
Free. Oh man, it's funny. It's a great book, though. It's so good. When you found out that those two were related, I was just dumbfounded by the whole thing. And then she winds up murdering him. Like, oh my gosh, it's just crazy, man. And it's so like psycho, this book too. It's like she's so creepy and everything. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really good stuff.
It's like a mature Stranger Things with a sci-fi twist.
Right. Yeah. If anybody knows how long this book is taking a break for, let us know in the comments. All right. So let's move on to our number 4. My number 4 is actually Cult of Carnage Misery issue 4. You know what? This series is a lot better, in my opinion. I don't know if anybody else is reading this.
Yeah, I'm reading it.
I like it. I like how I feel that they're adding more layers to Liz Allen as a character. You know,
I like Liz a lot here. I don't like the arc. It's so interesting because I don't care who she's fighting, but this issue was really good because it focused on her. It focused on, like, we learned that she was abused by Harry, which was really interesting. It really was a whole story about her past. So I very much enjoyed this issue. I'm curious what it means because, like, obviously there's I think 2 issues left of this. I'm like, is this really going to connect anywhere? But like, I like Rand's stories from her.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, again, it just adds something to that character that's always been a side character forever. You're like, oh, there's Liz Allen, here's this, and here's that. And then then you run into Menace. What's her name? Lily Holster, right? So you run into her.
That was the end of the issue.
And she is now Queen Cat, which she was in the book previously a little while back. But I agree right there with you. Giving her layers is awesome. She was like a failure as a wife. She's a failure as a nurse. She's a failure as a mother. And it's just like, man, they really broke her down, and it's just like, but she's going to rise above, and she's going to overtake whatever, challenge is going to come her way going forward. And I thought it was really awesome, man. It's a book that surprised me. I thought it was just going to be one of those, okay, we're just going to read this and create a new symbiote and be done with it. But it's much more than that.
We did have a question in the comments. I know Brant had the same question for you, Mike. I don't know whether this has been talked about, but there are thoughts. Do you have thoughts on Immortal Thor issue 1? I enjoyed it and thought the art was excellent. Me and Brant liked it. I'm curious to see where it goes. I think it has potential. I like the art, but I heard that you didn't love it, Mike.
Yeah. So on last week's show, I was listening to the show in the car, and Brant was talking to you, Kat, going, "Oh yeah, he's like, he watched my Only Good Comics episode, and I left a comment on there, and then I couldn't come to the show, right? So." Yes, and then someone mentioned that I gave it like a D. I think I actually gave it a D minus.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh, is there in my video? I said, is there a thing such as an F plus? Like, I hated this comic book, and I know I'm in the minority in our group when it comes to this book, but the artwork to me was okay. But it drove me crazy how Thor was smiling all the time. I'm like, okay, maybe we're getting to what he like people make him out to be in a movie theater, but it was just so boring to me. Like, I didn't care about, you know, the frost giants in the beginning. It was so convenient that Loki had this magical stick and he sits there and he brings back the Rainbow Bridge. It was like everything that has been, you know, broken from Thor is all magically fixed in one single issue. And it's like, boom, we're going to go right to Midgard. And then all of a sudden we're going to interact with everybody. And then all of a sudden we do get this 11th realm or whatever it's called, which seemed a little interesting. And it looks like I'm going to try to continue it. I'm going to see if it does get better, just because, you know, it is Al Ewing. He has written some good stuff in the past, but I really wasn't a fan of this. And this is just a personal opinion. When a book goes to Norse dialogue, it drives me freaking crazy.
No, I don't usually like the Norse dialogue either, but I like the ending. I like that. I was like, oh, these are different characters. Like, this seems different, because we don't get a lot of different stories sometimes with these bigger characters, as I've mentioned.
Right. And so, like, you know, after considering it, I'll give it an issue 2, you know, because it is Thor and it's Al Ewing. And I was falling asleep reading this book. Like, I had to just put it down for a while, restart it, and then reread it. And I just still wasn't into it, you know? Right. So, however, it was better than the end of the last run of Thor. That I could say. What's going on with Bran? Is he all right?
I think he's okay. I think he might be setting up his phone, or at least he's trying. And then I saw the comment that I was a Hannah Montana fan. I was like, where did that come from?
That's hilarious. Okay, so I think we were on number 4, right?
We are. So I think you did your number 4.
Yes, I did mine. And so what was yours?
Mine is Local Man, Gold, issue 1, which I was surprised you didn't grab.
My shop didn't have it. I didn't see it there.
Oh, it's a shame. It was a solid book. It's not necessary to read for the main story, so if you skip it, it's fine. But it's just like a fun issue where he meets his past self, and he has to kind of work together with Crossjack. And, you know, Crossjack's kind of a jerk, and you kind of see how he's developed as a character. And it was just fun. It was like a very old school superhero book that is very nostalgic, but also what this book does so wonderfully, it still plays with 2023 storytelling, with how in-depth these characters are and how well layered they are. So I love this book. It's fun, and it was a good one shot.
Okay, cool. All right. So we'll wait for Brant when Brant comes back, we'll go back to his number 4. So let's talk about Devil's Cut issue 1.
So interestingly, someone in my comments said you were the first person who put Marvel's Age above DSTLRY. And I didn't love this book. First of all, I hate these magazines.
You liked Marvel's Age better than this one.
More than this, yeah.
I did too.
Okay, so at least we're both in the because I thought with Marvel's Age, I like the last 2 stories a lot. I really like the story with Jane Foster and that girl, where that girl was like, oh, I don't even like superheroes. And then she sees Jane and she's like, wait, I do. And then you have the Steve Ditko story in the end. So I'm like, I understood the theme of it. I understood it's about, you know, trying to celebrate old Marvel, but then also talking about the themes of what Marvel is. Now, is it a must buy? No, you don't need to pick it up. But if I had to compare the 2, I thought that was better than Devil's Cut, which just felt like is edgy for the sake of being edgy and wasn't selling me on anything. I'm like, okay, so am I following this story? It's like, cool, these writers can tell sex and violence now. That's interesting, I guess.
Yeah, so I get that this new company is coming out, right? And I did not need this book to exist in order to let me know that these writers are good writers,
right? Exactly,
creators, right? And so, and I made an actual video between these 2 comics, comparing the 2, right? And why the Marvel one was better. Now, the price point, $10 comic books, I'm just not into. Anthology stories, I'm not into. But when you have a book like Marvel, or a company like Marvel that's been around for 60 years,
And you know
right?
these characters
And
already.
know these characters, then you can get away with an anthology book. But when they did this anthology book, they still did it better than the Devil's Cut one, because the stories had room to breathe. There's about 10 pages. I counted it. 10 pages on every single story. The X-Men one had 14 pages. The shortest story was the Steve Ditko story, right? And the Stan Lee story. That one had the least amount of pages in there, but it was still impactful. It still had like 7 or 8 pages, where the Devil's Cut story had 3 pages, maybe 4 max on every single story. So right as you start to get into a story, the story's over. And a lot of people said, well, these stories are going to be continuing. Do we know that for sure? Like, it doesn't say that. It just says end on a lot of the stories. It doesn't say to be continued. Some of them just say finished. Like, there's nobody there. There's no real good story to the point where I was like, oh my God, I need to read a next issue of this, because there wasn't enough room to breathe in it.
There's
You know what I'm
5
saying?
pages. How can you say, unless, as someone who does a lot of anthologies, unless you have a very specific theme that you're trying to tell in 4 pages, it's really hard to tell a story and say, oh, I'm actually trying to sell you a mini series or an ongoing book with 4 pages. It just, no matter how great of a writer or artist you are, it was just too hard. And I think maybe there's like one story I enjoyed in there where I was like, oh, that kind of has potential, but it was so hard to get into. And again,
Right.
just one, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not even saying you have to pick it up, but I was like,
No.
there's some stories that from beginning, middle, and end I got sucked into. Again, that girl is a great example. And the reason I used the girl of Jane Foster is because she's not really she's a new character, right? She's a character you don't know. She's not Spider-Man. She's not the Human Torch, but you got sucked in because there's just a little bit of room to say like, oh, she's a person who doesn't believe in heroes. Now she does. It's a very simple story. This felt like the Devil's Cut just felt like you're telling such a big story, but you're not finishing anything. Like, it didn't feel like a beginning, middle, and end. There's no story.
Yeah. That Jane Foster book had feels though too, because the girl's mother died while having a stroke in an alley, and none of the superheroes helped her. They didn't realize that she was dead. So it's impactful that way. And same with the Steve Ditko and Stan Lee story. Now, a lot of the writers that are on there don't write so many Marvel stories today, but they get what Marvel is and was, right? So that's why it was so impactful. My thing was, when it came to this book, was what Devil's Cut should have been a bunch of maybe 10 or 11 $1 books, and do 10, 12 page samplers that way.
That'd be great.
And put them on the shelves and let people pick and choose what story they want. That you can do, where it's just like, that's advertising to me, not
especially as a new company where you don't know what stories you're getting. You're like, ooh, should I like invest in this new company? And obviously, luckily, the people behind it have done a lot of stuff. The creators on here have done, I think the people behind it have done Comixology, if I remember correctly. So like, yeah, you trust the company in that regard. But I'm like, oh, how am I supposed to know there's going to be a world tree or a nice house on the lake? Like, how am I supposed to know if I'm going to like any of these stories? I agree. I remember Vertigo when they released, like way back in the day, I want to say like 15 or 20 years ago now, when they were releasing their new slate of books, they released dollar issues where it's like, check out our first issue for $1, or like a sample of our first issue, and then you could read the rest when it comes out. And that's a great way to like just test it out. I think Brent is back.
I couldn't
and
get,
you look better.
I couldn't get any audio things to work with my phone, so it's up there. But anyway, I'm back on the computer. I just tried these to see if maybe it was my earbuds that was causing the problem.
You are moving well, so
yeah. So maybe that's it. Maybe I just can't use these earbuds I bought, which sucks.
That's crazy that could happen, because you look talking about DSTLRY, the Devil's Cut, and we had a big conversation about versing that with the Marvel's Age book. Did you read both those titles or no?
I read Marvel's Age. I couldn't get that. It's in my pull list. I don't think I can get it till the 19th. So yeah, I didn't read that. But Marvel Age was okay, but it was not necessary.
No, it's not. It shouldn't even been called Marvel's Age. It could have been 60 years of Marvel or whatever it is, you know. But yeah, Kat and I had a good story or a good talk about this one, and we were on the same page when it comes to that.
I was still listening. I still had my earbuds.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So yeah, sampler books would have been perfect for that, man. Just do 10-page stories, something that has a beginning, middle, and end. So it has room to breathe, and you can get attached to what the story is going to be about. Like you don't have room to tell a story there.
Yeah, I agree. I did see a lot of positive reviews for Devil's Cut though.
I know, and that's what I thought was so interesting because I was telling Mike, like a lot of people commented on my videos and saying like, "Oh, you're the first person," and obviously me and Mike, I guess now are the first people to say you didn't love Devil's Cut. But yeah, it doesn't mean I'll dislike the stories when they come out, but
right, exactly.
I don't know if I got enough.
I feel as a book that just trying to. What are you? Like, what company are you? What are you trying to promote?
I think they're trying to sell that they have sex and violence. That's what I kind of got by the end. I think that's what it's going to be about.
But, you know, so does Image. So does all the other independent companies. You know?
Kickstarter.
It's interesting, their business model. I will say that because, like, you can't get the book digitally right now. They haven't released it digitally. And it's like their books are only going to be available at certain times. They're doing drops like you would with fashion lines and stuff like that. So it's a really interesting business model. I don't know if it's going to work for comics, but we'll see.
Right. There is a comment here from Don. He says Marvel value stamps were reintroduced into it, which is correct. In the back of this Marvel 1000, you got to see new value stamps. I think it had like Gwenpool, or no, maybe I like Spider-Gwen. It had Jeff in it. Yeah, it was like, it was funny. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, to me, that's just, it's hitting nostalgia. It's again showing what Marvel was at a certain point in time, you know. So I thought that stuff was kind of neat.
Yeah, that stuff was neat, and the stories weren't bad. Like overall, I skipped the Captain Marvel one because it was just really long and I wasn't interested.
Right.
But all the rest I read, and I thought
Spider-Man stories. Spider-Man story was good.
Yeah.
The story about who is it? The first Human Torch. That was actually kind of good too.
I like the Jean Grey one even. So
yeah, Jean Grey one was pretty cool. That one was written by Rainbow on that one.
Yeah, and had Marguerite Savage on the art. And then I like the Stan, Steven, Jack story at the end.
Yes, that's what Kat and I were talking about. Yeah. It's like they're just drawing away, reminiscing, talking about things. It's so cool, man.
Right.
So yeah, not bad. All right. So now, Brent, what was your number 4?
My number 4 was actually Ultimate Invasion.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So now we got done with Devil's Cut. We're going to talk about number 3. So we'll go right back to you, Brant. What was your number 3?
Local Man Gold. I heard Kat talking about it a little bit. I thought it was a fun story. You know, it was you didn't have to really read a whole lot of the first one to get of the regular series to get what's going on, but I thought it was fun that the way they incorporated like all these Image characters and of past, and it wasn't like your typical characters. It was like these kind of forgotten characters a little bit. So it was fun. It was a fun issue. I enjoyed it.
Cool. All right. So now we're going to talk about Incredible Hulk Volume 5, Issue 3. I do like the Incredible Hulk. However, for this particular issue, I didn't dislike it. I just felt like there wasn't enough or any story progression. It basically was just this big battle between Hulk and this crazy giant ass monster. And you got Charlie, who is the supporting character, sitting there going, I want to be with you, Hulk. I want to be with you. And that's pretty much the entire issue, really. I mean, there was nothing that really was like, oh my gosh, this was so awesome. I mean, yeah, action's always fun, right? But I want to see more character growth, and I want to see more story development here. The one thing that I did notice is Hulk said the word stupid in this book probably about 8 to 10 times. But
See, I really like this issue.
did you really?
I really like this issue a lot. I thought they did a really good job at. I really like the relationship between the girl and Incredible Hulk because the whole progress of it.
That I like. I want to see more of it though.
And I think that was kind of the point of the issue was him kind of fighting her and saying, no, like, you can't trust me. Like, stop. I don't want to be with you. And she kind of makes this promise say, yeah, I won't trust Bruce, but I'll trust you. And I was like, okay, I'll team up with you. And I think that was kind of the whole point of the issue. And I love the feel of this book. I love the horror vibe to it. And I keep saying it reminds me a lot of Immortal Hulk, but in a way that is still different. And I've never seen a follow-up to such a big book like Immortal Hulk. Actually get to see them do their own thing, try not to copy it, but be almost as good. And I'm loving this series a lot, and I think the art really helps for it. The vibe helps. This is what I want to see from Marvel Comics. I want to see distinct genres like this, and I'm really enjoying this book.
So I like the horror feel to it. I like how it's different. Like it doesn't seem so overly complex.
Right.
Like
no, it's not complex at all.
Right. So it's got the best of both worlds. It's almost got like old school Hulk, but a new feel. Right. And I'm not saying that I dislike the issue. I'm just saying that I just felt like I needed a little bit more plot to it. That's all. But there's no way I'm not gonna drop this book. It's never going to happen because I love the horror feel to it. The one thing that I feel like Marvel is doing really well right now is in that horror side of things.
Yeah,
there's a lot of horror books that I feel that maybe you may not read or Brant reads, but that I really am enjoying. And
like which ones do you think?
Well, one is Ghost Rider. I've mentioned that a bunch of times. And then you got this Ghost Rider Wolverine story that's going on as well. I think you guys are reading Blade, so that story is actually really good. Immortal Hulk is really good. I said Immortal Hulk, right? Incredible Hulk is really good. So there's just more horror books that are out from them that have been quite interesting, even it's not really horror, but like I even like the death of the Venomverse has actually been interesting and entertaining to me as well. But that's not so much horror. That's more like to me, I look at that as a summer action popcorn flick. But I feel like they're doing a pretty good job at horror books because we haven't seen so many horror books from them as of late. I think we had Immortal Hulk for a long time, but that's the only one I could remember for a while. And then they're getting ready to release Werewolf by Night in the next couple of weeks too.
Yeah, I think that's a one shot.
Yeah, still horror,
Yeah. No, definitely.
It's still in that theme of things. So I like how they're dabbling more into that.
You got October coming, so you're gonna get more horror.
Yeah, you had a Hallows Eve, who is a creepy character as well. So all right, so that's our Incredible Hulk talk. We're going to go on to number 2. What do you got, Brant?
Batman Catwoman, actually. So.
Oh, okay. Way high up there. Cat?
Mine is Power Rangers, 30th anniversary. I'm surprised that Brant didn't pick this one up.
I just didn't get a chance to read it.
It was really good, actually.
Yeah, I should have read it instead of Marvel Age, but
I think it is definitely better than Marvel Age. Yeah. This is the way to do an anthology. It focuses on characters that you wouldn't normally have a chance to focus on. So you have Ernie, who runs the juice bar. You have Alpha, but you also have other characters that are, a little bit more fan favorites, like Tommy, and be like, oh, how about if he marries Cat? And then you have the actress who played Kimberly kind of do her own story about where she sees Kimberly in the future. It was a good love letter to the series. It was fun. And I was entertained with every short story. And I think that's what's important with an anthology. And there's a lot of heart that was put into this one. So I had a really good time with it.
I saw a picture of her finding it in a store. It might have been in your group, Mike. I don't remember, but somebody posted a picture of
Oh,
her
that's fun.
like picking up her book in the store. So that was cool.
Oh yeah, it was in the group.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. What are we on? 2?
Yeah.
I think you have to do your 2.
My
Yeah,
2?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, mine was Wolverine. Speaking of
Okay.
Wolverine issue 36, the part 3 of the Weapons Invention story. Again, really good story. Wolverine, Ghost Rider teaming up to try to take on this this kid that has his supernatural entity attached to him. This actually does tie into the Fall of X stuff, believe it or not. There's this guy that has this ability to expel the entity from this kid. And what happens is they wind up capturing Wolverine, and this entity comes out of the kid and goes into Wolverine. And now he becomes freaking Helverine. And he's just riding around in a freaking bike, and he's got his flames going on. And it's freaking insane, dude. It's just fun. And
Yeah.
again, the artwork is almost like Hulk, Cat. It's just
Okay.
dark, it's gritty, it's scary at times. It does such a great job at just having that feel to it, you know. So and that's what the Ghost Rider book has had this entire time. And even though this is Wolverine, it just has that same exact feel to it. So good stuff there. All right. Let's talk about Blade. All 3 of us read Blade, which is, I feel like it's kind of surprising that all 3 of us are reading this book.
It's such a random
Definitely.
character to read, but I think it's because of the art, which I thought improved actually, because I know the coloring was a little off with issue 1. But I like the art a lot here. I mean, it's a solid book. It didn't make my top 5 this week, but I like it. I like the relationship he had with his ex-girlfriend. I'm interested to see what this girl, the possessed girl, has to do with anything. It's a solid book. I enjoy it. Do I love it? Not yet, but
yeah,
I like it.
It's the most interesting Blade I've read. So
I've never read Blade, so I really like the daughter story. I enjoy the daughter story far, but
yeah, I mean Blade when he pops up, I don't know if I've ever read. I probably have read some kind of Blade story at some point, but you know, he pops up in different things and stuff. But this, I don't know, this feels different, and it probably is a lot to do with the art, like you said.
Yeah.
I do really like the art in it, but I think the characterization so far has been really good, really solid as well. So I'm intrigued by it, and that's going to keep me reading it at least for now. So
yeah, I liked it too. I mean, it's written by Brian Hill, right? So
yeah,
I thought it was really good. I enjoyed the helicopter scene when they're going to capture Tulip, and he enters the helicopter and he takes out the soldiers and whatnot. And you have no idea like what her whole involvement of everything is. That's the mystery of it. And then you got the other situation that he's dealing with at the same time. Yeah. So like you guys, I'm very intrigued to see what's going on, but it's a gorgeous book and it's an interesting story so far. So I'm on board.
Yeah. It gives me a little bit of Daredevil vibes.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. And the next book we're going to be talking about here is Plot Holes. And Kat read this book, so I wasn't sure if she was going to read this.
I read it because I know it was like an Indiegogo book from Sean Murphy. I think I have the book. I like his art a lot. I did not love this story. It was right from the beginning. You're thrown into it with all these different characters, and I don't think I was never able to like catch on. Be like, all right, who's this person? Who's that person? It was just way too much for this first issue.
There's a lot that this book throws at you.
Yeah,
I liked the concept. The idea is there. It's something very different. And what this book is, Brant, it throws you for a loop from the beginning because you feel like there's these cast of characters and they're doing battle against like these aliens, but then they're talking about, oh, we need to edit this scene and we need to do this. And you're like, what the heck is going on in this comic book, right? And so what they are is they're a cast of people that have been brought together in a digital like comic or digital book world, right? And they have to save the books. They have to make sure the books get published. Otherwise, there's this meter that's in this digital book world that if it goes down to zero, this digital world will implode and everything in it will die. So that's basically what they have to save.
Yeah.
So you get introduced to the cast of characters. There's this one character by the name of Ed, who's the editor of everything. It's kind of like the leader. You get introduced to this other kid. I think his name was Cliff, who was in a failed book, and he most recently gets recruited. You get introduced to this anime guy who was in an anime or a manga, and he was like in like a Gundam thing. And so like he you know, he's telling the new kid that got recruited on like what everything is going on. There's a lot of Easter eggs that are referenced in this comic book. Like, I thought it was a real well thought of idea, but man, yeah, they throw so much at you, and you as the reader are very overwhelmed. So if you have read a bunch of comics beforehand, you're going to be like totally mentally exhausted reading this comic book. Gotcha. This is a book that you have to read on its own and dedicate yourself just separate time to read this actual comic to appreciate what's going on in the story.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, it does sound like an interesting concept.
It is. It definitely is. I'm curious to see where it actually is going to go going forward.
I don't think I'm going to pick up the second issue. I think it was too much for me on that one, but
it made a lot of money.
Yeah, it made a lot. Yeah, they did like well.
$266,000.
Wow, man!
It was a graphic novel too, so it's like it's done. Like that was not just a single issue,
right? Plot holes was such a clever idea, but it just didn't work for me. I don't plan on continuing. I completely understand because it took me a while to like digest everything. Like I almost, when I got done reading that book, I was like thinking about it for a while. I'm like, okay, now I understand what's happening in this comic book. It's pretty wild, man. Okay. So, all right. To number one. Kat, what do you got? Is it Hulk?
Mine is Hulk. I really like this book.
Brant?
World Tree.
Mine was World Tree also.
Nice.
So pretty good stuff right there. All right. Pretty awesome. So I guess I'll hand it over to you now. And we're going to do the most anticipated for today or tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully I don't cut out today and tomorrow, I suppose. Yeah, so I there's some crossover between us, but it's
not as much this week.
Yeah, not as much. There's different picks, I think. Amazing Spider-Man would not put on my list. So, let's talk about that. That's Cat's
which one
number 2 and Mike's number 3. Amazing Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah, I really liked the last issue of Spider-Man, which is why I was anticipating that. Yeah. I was just like, all right, like he's evil now. That's interesting. Like I really liked last issue. So
he's also back in the black suit this issue, I think.
Yeah.
And he's hunting Kraven.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
Listen, you guys, didn't you guys talk about this book and I wasn't on or something like that? Yeah. So you guys were talking about like the relationship to Peter and everything like that. Like, so listen, don't you find this relationship with Kafka and Kraven kind of weird? Like they're hooking up. You obviously know that they're,
you know, nothing in this book is weird anymore. You know? Like I don't
like it.
Think about it.
Kraven's into all that beast animal stuff. So like, does he go to he goes to Queen or Goblin Queen and sits there and goes, you know?
Hell yeah. No, he's
pretty
into
good.
It. He's into it for sure. Hey, at least she's back. I like the character. Like I'm glad she's doing something. Good. It is definitely not the weirdest thing that's happening in this book.
No. I don't know. I guess maybe also I don't know if you guys can hear me or not, but visually they just look cool together.
Yeah, they
At
do.
least the way they were illustrated in that book. So
and I'm just like, hey, someone's getting some action in this comic because we know it's not Peter.
Not Peter.
Right? MJ looks like she's Robbie on the rough side with Paul these days. You know, who knows what freaking Black Cat is doing right now. So it's like
yeah, the wedding was
being
a bust.
jealous
So,
about
yeah.
Peter, I guess, even though who knows why they broke up in the first place.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, the wedding was messed up. So it's just like no one's getting anything. So
No
it's like,
love.
hey, let's put these two villains together randomly and have them just hook up, and he's going to take out those sins. And now the sins are like a thing now. They just get passed along to random people. Like, whoever thought that was a thing, you know? It's like a symbiote. It's like, oh, you can get injected into me, and now I'll become evil. But I still think it's cool. I think it's neat that he's going to put on that suit, hunt Craven, and, you know, we'll see what becomes of it going forward.
That was Mike's 3 and Cat's 2. So my number 3 was Batman 137, just because of the Gotham War stuff. I want to see what happens next.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I mean, well, I don't know if I'm excited for it, but I'm reading it.
Yeah. So let's talk about your number 3 then, Kat, because I don't think Mike and I are reading this. So
As you should be. Peacemaker. I love this book. It's so good. It's comedically on point, but it's also a really emotional story about Peacemaker having no friends and like just not feeling like he belongs. And all he wants to do is save his dog. And it's a really, really good book. I very much recommend it. And I'm excited for the next issue.
cool.
So I was reading this. I got to issue 2, and just my work schedule got in the way, so I fell off of it. That's really the only reason why.
Yeah,
I catch up or get in trade. I mean, we'll see if it finishes well, but so far it's been pretty solid.
I think I actually did read the first issue, and I didn't hate it. So
I
thought it was good. Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Hilarious. It was really funny.
All right, so we talked about Amazing Spider-Man. Let's talk about your number 2 then, Micah. Wolverine Ghost Rider Omega, which you kind of talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it's the conclusion to this whole thing.
Yeah,
a little short story, like I said, between the 2 titles, and like I said, Wolverine is Helverine right now, and when you combine Ghost Rider and Wolverine together, that's what you're gonna get. And now he's going on the hunt for mutants, because that was this whole thing. This guy that made this, he's working for Orcus, and he's having Wolverine go out there and search for mutants. So that's how the whole thing ties together. So
gotcha.
Yeah, pretty badass.
Cool. And speaking of mutants, my number 2 and your number 1.
I think he's mentioned the X-Men issue 26. So those are both your number 1, Mike, and then Brant. Where's X-Men for you? You said number 2?
2. Yeah.
So before you go cut off, Brant, why is that on your most anticipated list?
Because it's the Emma and Tony issue, right? So it's I want to see how that kind of comes to be, right? We got teased with it in Iron Man. Now I want to see like how they get together and all that stuff. So.
Yeah,
I'm picking it up.
Yeah, I like them together. I think they're pretty good. Obviously, the marriage is for a thing for them to work together. That's really what it is. It's almost like an arranged marriage type of thing,
Right.
But they do work well together. So I'm curious to see if this relationship actually develops into something special, or if it's just a business relationship.
Right.
But yeah, she's cool in the book, and Iron Man has been really good, and I like how Iron Man's been part of the X-Men. So, when it comes to an event, I feel like, this Fall of X stuff has been actually delivering in many cases.
I agree. And then finally, mine and Kat's number 1, Birds of Prey, issue 1. And
I was shocked that wasn't on Mike's list at all.
Yeah, me too.
I am excited for it, but it's not like I'm like, oh my God, this is a Birds of Prey. Like, yes, it's Kelly Thompson that's writing it. I am a Black Canary fan, but I'm so tired of seeing Harley Quinn. And I think who else is on this team? Big Barda,
Cassandra. Forget who else.
So there's a couple of members on this team where I'm just like, I'm not so excited about, but I'm definitely excited for it. It's just, there's only 3 comics there, right? I think if I look down my top my most anticipated comics video, because that's where I get these 3 rankings from. I think this probably fell at number 5. I think it was right in the middle.
Gotcha.
I'm stoked for it. The artist is the same artist who worked on Hawkeye. You know, it's Kelly Thompson. She really rarely disappoints. And I think this is just such her groove. Like, this is just the type of book she'd really rock. Comedy, emotion. The art looks good. I'm just, it also looks different. It looks different than stuff we've been getting from DC. So this feels like a run, and that's what I love from, you know, when I could get that from Marvel and DC, where it just feels so specific to a creative team than just like, here's Batman again.
Yeah, I hope it's a run that lasts a long time. That's what we all hope for, because that's what we're missing in comic books these days. Everything is written pretty much for a trade, or if a writer comes around and says, hey, I have a story that I want to talk about when it comes to Batman. Can I write it? And they'll be like, yeah, sure. And then we'll find the next writer. There's the days of long runs, they're getting less and less. So you're right. If there's somebody that can write a run, it would be, you know, Kelly Thompson that could do it. So let's cross our fingers and hope that it's good. People will pay money to, you know, for the comic, and we'll all be happy.
The name changes said Zealot from Wildcats, I think is
might
be on the team. Yeah. If West Coast Avengers taught us anything, is Kelly Thompson can take some characters that don't seem like they go together and make something really special out of it. So I'm hoping that's the case with this book.
I've heard really good things about it, so there's already like good buzz about it. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a good book.
And also create fun characters as well. Like, you know, we saw it in West Coast Avengers. You know, like, again, Jeff the Land Shark. He was a character that was nothing. It was a freaking land shark, right? Then there was a couple other characters that were in that book too that we haven't seen since. But I thought they were
that brother and sister. The brother and sister characters were really fun.
Yeah.
Even Quentin Quires kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
So.
He has, which is very interesting.
He showed up in an X book that I read recently.
Oh, really?
Yes. I can't
Last
remember.
time I saw him was that event.
Well,
with the people from Morocco, that tournament thing.
Yeah. Well, this has been like, I'm talking like the past week or two.
Oh, wow.
He was in the Fall of X stuff. I don't remember if it was Immortal X or X-Men Red or one of the other books. They all bleed together for me, but he's in one of the books.
Gotcha.
Maybe he was in X-Force.
Oh, it might have been, because I don't read X-Force.
Yeah, he might be in X-Force.
Actually. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's all our most anticipated. I saw somebody mention Fire and Ice, the Smallville thing.
I'm interested
almost
in that
made my
one.
list. Yeah.
Yeah, I might pick it up just to see what it. I know
mean,
nothing.
Smallville. I know
nothing about Fire and Ice, so I couldn't tell you anything.
I just know they used to be in the Just League International. That's literally all I know. But also the art looks pretty good for that book, so I'm pretty interested to see what that's about.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, so we have anything else to say?
Tevye asks, what about Shazam? I feel like it's one of those books that if it didn't stop, maybe I would have said I was excited.
It's a Dawn to DC book. Is it come out tomorrow?
I guess so. I
don't. Okay. I'm picking it up.
Yeah.
It's not most anticipated because I don't remember where we left off.
I don't either. Yeah, honestly.
So, all right, guys. So sorry we didn't have that much news to talk about, but that's out of our control. Hopefully there'll be more topics to talk about next week. But we
see that there's a lot of books to talk about for next week.
Yeah. So
I had a very short week this week. Yeah.
What's that?
I said I had a really short week this week.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I was done reading my books by Friday.
It was a fifth Wednesday. It was a fifth Wednesday, so that's why it was like a smaller week. I had honestly like still 11 books somehow. I don't know how. They were all. It cost me like $60 because it was like $10 books.
Yeah.
I did read. Like I still had like 13 books. Oh, thank you, Angel, for the super chat.
Thank
you. Yeah.
But I did still have like 12 or 13 books. I just was on top of it this week, you know?
Yeah, I had about 11.
Yeah.
What, Brent?
I had 12, but I only read 11. So.
The Power Rangers, man, the one you skipped.
You act like that's a bad thing. You act like, I only read two.
No.
But you read like 99% of your books.
Yeah, no, I know. But I should have read that one, but you know.
People are talking about Sacrificers. I like that first issue.
That
so
first
I'm also
issue was
curious
good,
about that.
man.
No.
Yep, that was an awesome first issue. I cannot wait to see more of that book. Like, I have so many questions. Like, oh my
There's
God.
a lot of good books. On tomorrow. Sorry, I was reading about Selena Gomez is the most followed person on Instagram. I guess you watch Legend of Good. I'm having like flashbacks. I was on another podcast, my Legends podcast,
Legendary
and I was talking
Ladies,
about
yeah.
that. So I'm guessing you listened to that. So thank you for
Nice.
listening to the podcast. But I was like, wait, what podcast am I on right now?
Selena's
Talking about
cool
Selena
though,
Gomez.
so you know.
Selena is a good person, I guess. I don't know if she is, but she's a good singer. Yeah, it was interesting to hear that. I guess maybe she has a comic coming out tomorrow. Who knows? But yeah, let's get into, I guess, the plugs, right?
Yeah, what do you guys have?
Kickstarter in like 2 weeks. So again, we'll talk about that when the 2 weeks. So let's savor the moment of no Kickstarters for 2
yes,
weeks.
I mean, yeah, we've got that popped up too soon, but we've got one coming up maybe in a month or so. We are about 2/3 of the way of fulfillment on Bloom Pretty, so we're working on the next issue of that. So that should be launching soon. So
awesome. Cool. Very good. All right, guys. So thank you for stopping by, checking out the show this week. And like I said, hopefully we'll have some more news for you. We'll have great comic books, of course, to talk about. So until then, make sure you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit that bell so you don't miss any notifications from us. Follow us on the social media, which there's a lot of things now. There's Facebook, there's like freaking X, there's Instagram, Messengers up there now. You get the Messenger thing. So
like I said, I needed an extra icon.
MySpace. What else is there? What other stuff is there that used to exist?
There is that MySpace, like you said.
Yeah.
Threads, Blue Sky.
Threads. Yeah, Threads. Come on, Brant. Where's the Threads thing? You got to put that on there. Also.
Oh, there you go. I'll replace Messenger with Threads.
Yeah, there you go. We'll put it on Threads. Yeah. So, yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Happy New Comic Book Day to you all.